Hello and welcome to My Way or the AI Way. I'm Scott Davison. I'm on a mission to master AI, and each week I'm trying new things and sharing what I'm learning via this podcast. This week I've been looking into the area of vibe coding, and I've been playing around with some vibe coding. So today what I'm going to be giving you is a bit of a beginner's guide to vibe coding. We'll look at what it is, how you could be using it in your business or in your life, and what are some of the tools that are available if you want to get into this area. And I'm also going to show you a demonstration of what I was able to build using a tool called Lovable in just 2 hours with no prior knowledge of that product. So it is really amazing what you can do these days with vibe coding. If you're interested in learning a bit more about vibe coding, hopefully you'll get a lot out of this episode. So let's get into it. So firstly, what is vibe coding? This is a term that was coined by Andre Karpathy. He's the co-founder of OpenAI, and he's quite well known in the AI space. And it really describes the idea that developers can now write code or develop software just by talking to AI and telling it what they want. So the idea that you just give it the vibe of what you're looking for and it will create it for you. And obviously this has been big change for developers. Now developers are using AI to write the majority of their code. But it also means for non-developers, people who don't have coding background like me and probably like you, we now have the option to actually play around in this space, build software, build applications using some of these tools that are available. And that's what vibe coding is. So how could this be helpful? Like I say, if you're a developer, you're already using AI. But if you're a non-developer, maybe you've got a product idea or a business idea that you just want to quickly knock up a prototype of. Or maybe there's a very specific task within your business where you've thought, wouldn't it be great to have a mobile app or an online application that could help me do that? This is what vibe coding can help you do. You can jump in, you can create something. It's very easy to create a prototype, a working prototype that you can then show to stakeholders or to clients and start to get feedback. In reality, probably most people are going to need a developer, or most businesses are going to need a developer before they actually have a full functioning product, just because of some of the issues around privacy and security. But for a very specific use case, or as I say, for a prototype, you can actually do that yourself now using these tools. And it could be that you want to build a mobile app, or maybe you want to build a Chrome plugin, a Chrome extension, or even an online game. What most people are starting with and what most of these applications people are building are actually web apps. So a web app works similar to a website in that you access it via a browser. But where a website is mainly just copy and images and maybe some basic inquiry forms, a web application is a fully functioning piece of software. So it's interactive, it does a specific task. And this previously was beyond the realms of non-coders. So that's probably a good place to start, is with a web app. And that's certainly the example I'm going to be showing you today of what I've developed. It's a basic web app that's interactive, it's got a database behind it, and it's a functioning piece of software. And I developed that using Lovable. But Lovable's just one of the many tools available. So I thought it'd be helpful to provide a quick overview of the landscape. And obviously this is evolving quickly, but let's have a quick look at the current landscape of the different types of tools and some examples of the tools that are available. So if you're watching this, you'll be able to see the slide I'm presenting, but if not, don't worry, I'll talk you through it. There's basically 3 types of tools, or 3 buckets that these tools fit into. So at the basic end, you have the ability to write code using any of the LLMs. So ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, and the one that's probably best known for writing code is Claude. And all of these tools can actually write code for you just by speaking to it or entering via a prompt, much as you would use ChatGPT to create an image for you, or perhaps to write an email for you. It can also write the code for you. And it can even give you a link that you can share, and you can get a basic application working within one of these LLMs. And in fact, all of the other tools that I'm going to talk about still use these LLMs. They still link into Claude in most cases to actually write the code, but they've added an extra layer to it to make it more functional. So the second bucket are really what I would call developer AI platforms. And this is what most of the developers are now using and have been using for quite a while to write their code using AI. So these are platforms like GitHub Copilot. Cursor is a very popular one, and there's another one called Windsurf. And developers use this. They're still sort of doing a lot of the work themselves, but they're using these tools to integrate a lot of the features. But for the rest of us, probably what we're going to be looking at if we want to get something up and running is one of the all-in-one solutions. And these do everything. You can write the code directly within it just by using the chat prompts. It can also integrate with databases. It can set up all of the back-end functions of the software. It's quite impressive what it does. I'll show you an example of that. And again, there's lots of these coming onto the market, and it's evolving very quickly. But 3 of the main ones I looked at were Replit, Bolt, and Lovable. And from what I could tell from my research, Replit is definitely the most capable, the most functional. If you were looking to develop a new product or a new business, you can do it all on Replit. And there are people who are already doing this. They've built brand new software-based, SaaS-based businesses just using Replit. So it's a really powerful product and it does everything. Whereas Bolt and Lovable, they appear to be perhaps a little bit more user-friendly, not quite as full-functioned as Replit, but in terms of getting a quick prototype up and running, and particularly if you want it to kind of look good, the tool that I landed on was Lovable. It's very easy to use. There's a free version you can use, and it will create a very good-looking piece of software very quickly for you. So Lovable's the one I'm going to be demonstrating today, but as I say, there's lots of tools available, and it's quickly evolving. So I wanted a project that I could use to start playing around with vibe coding. I wanted to choose something relatively simple, fun, that I could knock up in half a day. So what I decided to create was a Seinfeld online trivia quiz. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. I know a lot of the people who watch this podcast are from the same sort of age bracket as me, so there's a good chance you're interested in Seinfeld as well. But I thought that would be a good thing to play around with. So I'm going to show you what I was able to create literally in 1 hour yesterday using Lovable and ChatGPT. So I'll start by showing you what I created, where I got it to within an hour, which I would say is very much the MVP, the minimum viable prototype. And then I'll dive in and give you a bit of a live demonstration of how Lovable actually works. So here it is if you're watching. This is my online Seinfeld trivia quiz, and I'll put a link to this in the show notes so you can go and have a play with it if you're interested. There's some basic functionality I wanted to test out. So the first thing this does is it collects your name and your email address, which I've made optional. And you can sign up to email. So that's a pretty common function with certainly any client-facing thing. You're probably going to want to be collecting some basic data. So I wanted to test that functionality, and this is now linked to a database within Lovable. And then you start the challenge, and it's just got a series of questions. You know, in the soup Nazi, what soup does Jerry order to appease Yev Kasim? I know that it's this one, option A. Finish this quote. These pretzels are making me. We all know that one, making me thirsty. And you sort of work your way through these questions that are based on either famous quotes or famous scenes or famous characters, sort of iconic moments from the Seinfeld series. So most hardcore Seinfeld fans would probably get most of the way through this. You know, we know that the Festivus pole is made from aluminum, as they say in the show. And what does George pull from the whale's blowhole? I know that's a golf ball. Okay, but you get to a point that they're meant to gradually get more and more difficult as you go through, and you get one wrong, bang, there you go. This is something I wanted to have in there, which is fun. It pops up the message, no soup for you, back to the start. And it takes you right back to the start. Now, this is something I want to fix, that it now currently takes you right back to the start, because that's kind of annoying. So I'm going to go in and try and fix that. So I won't make you sit through me doing all those questions again. I'll just quickly work my way through it. And I also don't want to give away all the answers in case you want to try this yourself. But let me show you what happens as you get towards the end of this. So eventually you would make it right to the end. You get the last question correct, and it pops up a leaderboard, which is sort of something I wanted to build in for a bit of viral competition. So I'm now top of the leaderboard with 100 points, and I can give feedback. It pops up a feedback. It's annoying. It's annoying that you have to go back to the start. I can submit that, and that's collecting that in the database, and I can then play again if I want to. Okay, so that's a very basic MVP of this online game that I had in mind. But as you can see, it's got all the basic functionality. It's got the questions built in. It's got the sign-up form at the start, the leaderboard at the end. And I can now start to play around with making it more pretty, adding in some more features, which is what I'm going to do today. The reason I capped it yesterday at an hour is I'm using the free version of Lovable, and it has a limit of 5 tokens per day, which is not a lot. So I actually hit my limit yesterday, and I wanted to come back in today and make some further changes, show you how it works. But as I say, within an hour, using ChatGPT to help me very much, to help me understand Lovable, to help me write the prompts, I was able to get that MVP working. Literally, they call it one-shotting. Like the first prompt I put in, which was quite a detailed prompt, and I'll show you what that looks like, I was able to get that working pretty much how you see it now. Where I started to burn tokens was once I started playing around wanting to make little changes. I ate through the tokens pretty quickly, but yeah, pretty impressive that you can knock up something like that. And that's just a fun example, but you can think of many business examples where you might want to create something pretty quickly so that you can show it to stakeholders or to clients or to staff and start getting feedback. And then it's very easy to continue making small tweaks and improvements, and I'll show you how that works now. Okay, so this is Lovable. You go to Lovable.dev or just go to Google and type in Lovable. And as I say, they've got different options here. There's a pro version for $25 a month. There's a business version for $50 a month, and there's an enterprise version. But there's also a free version, which is the one I've already selected, which is why you're not seeing it there. But the free version gives you an opportunity to actually play around and you can actually get something up and running pretty well. The cap is in terms of how many queries you can do each day. So if you're prepared to just work on it for an hour each day, you can probably get by on the free version for quite a while. But to be honest, any business case, I think you're going to pretty quickly want to pay for this product. But I was able to play around with it on the free version, and I'll show you what that looks like now. So this is what the Lovable interface looks like. It's basically a chat window on the left where you can converse with it via chat, much like using ChatGPT. And then it has a live version of the software on the right so that you can see the changes it's making on the fly. But as I say, the way to use this tool, in fact, any software I'm using these days, I'm almost always using ChatGPT in a separate tab to help me navigate the software and to use it better. It's really an incredible use of ChatGPT. If you haven't started using it as sort of tech support, it's like having a partner next to you because, of course, it knows pretty much everything there is to know about Lovable. So if you want to know how to do something, you can be asking ChatGPT and it saves you sort of having to fumble around, look through FAQs, watch YouTube videos. You've got like a live tech support right next to you. And that's definitely how I did this. So let me just go to ChatGPT. I spent a bit of time before I even went into Lovable, just workshopping the idea with ChatGPT. This is what I'm thinking. This is how the game could work. And we sort of brainstormed a few ideas. Obviously, I explained to ChatGPT that I was using Lovable, and I asked it to help me write a really detailed prompt that I could paste into Lovable. This is good for a number of reasons. With any project, any software, any website, I've found this over and over again, even if you're using an agency or a developer to do it. If you can put more time into the planning phase and write a really good brief, then it means that what you get back is going to be much closer, hopefully, 80% of the way to what you want. And it's a much more efficient way than just trying to leave it up to the developer, or in this case, up to the AI to decide. Now, you can work with Lovable in that way, and it's certainly designed in that way that it says, what do you want to design? And you can just start chatting with it and it'll sort of build it up. But I know from experience, if you can take the time to get that first prompt really good, you can even do what they call one-shotting it, where you just put in a prompt and in one shot, you can actually get something out that's usable. So I spent quite a bit of time with ChatGPT, and then it wrote this very detailed prompt that you can see here. It's got the theme, it's got all the data points we want to collect. It went off and found a bunch of assets. These didn't work, incidentally, but it sort of found all these images and GIF files that I wanted to incorporate into the game. That's one thing I now need to fix because ChatGPT, the links it gave me were actually wrong. Yeah, it wrote a really detailed prompt that I could then just go and paste into Lovable, which is what I did yesterday. So I pasted that in and it came up with, it took about, I would say 30 seconds to a minute. And it came back with this that you see here on the right, which is the same as the demo we're looking at. And it's a live way of checking that. So this is how Lovable works. You've got your chat window on the left where you can be chatting and conversing, asking questions and making changes on the fly. You can also click up here if you want to actually go in and see what it's creating. You can see here, this is why it's so impressive. It's not just writing the code, it's creating all the sub-files, all the directories that would normally go into that software. And if you're technically inclined, you can actually go in and edit that code directly yourself. But for most of us, we would either be talking into the chat here to ask it what to do, and it would make those changes. Or you can go into edit mode, which works a lot like a WYSIWYG editor for a website, like WordPress, for instance. And you can actually just go in here and start changing these words, making basic changes yourself to the fields just by editing it like any normal document. But the real magic is in this chat functionality. So let me show you an example of how that works. Let's make a really simple change. Currently it's designed it in yellow. Maybe I want to change yellow to red. So I type in change the yellow to red throughout the app, hit go, and as you can see, it's thinking. And hopefully what it's going to go do now is actually go off, update all the code behind the scenes, and reflect that in the preview window there. Okay, so it thought for exactly 15 seconds. It says, I'll change the primary yellow color to red in the design system. It's editing the source code, and there you go. It's changed from yellow to red. So it's gone off, done all the coding for me in the background, and I can immediately see those changes reflected in the design. And I've probably used one token on that prompt. Let's have a look. 0.6, I used 0.6 of a token. So we're still good. We've still got some more to play with here. So let's make a more complex change. I think the main change, as I say, that I wanted to make in terms of the usability was I don't like the way that you get well through the quiz and then you get one question wrong. You get the message saying no suit for you, but you have to go right back to the start again. I think people would like to just be able to redo that question. So I could put a prompt in here. Okay, so I've typed in here, instead of sending people back to the start when they get to the question wrong, can we let them continue from the same question and try again? And I wanted to make it clear, I still want to show that message that says no suit for you, but I don't want to send them back to the start. So that's pretty basic prompt, everyday English, much like you would just talk to a developer and tell them that. And I've just typed that into the chat window. Let's see what happens here. I hit submit. Again, it's thinking. It's probably going off and accessing Claude or one of the LLMs to do some of that thinking for it. Again, 15 seconds of thinking time. I'll now modify the game flow so players can retry the same question instead of restarting from the beginning. And bang, supposedly that's done. So I'll now go off and test that to make sure it's working, but it should have fixed that bug, let's call it, that I had identified. And make the flow a lot easier. So any of those sort of little usability fixes can be fixed pretty quickly just using Lovable. And let's check in on my tokens. I'm now at 1.2. So you can see you can actually get quite a bit done with 5 tokens on the free version. I'll be able to make quite a few updates to this demo now. In fact, I'm going to do that today. So I'm going to add in a few more things. I won't demonstrate all of that because it's probably getting a bit boring for you, to be honest. You get the idea of how it works. But by the time you're viewing this, I will have made some more updates. So some of the things I'm going to be attempting to do are I want to add in some sound effects like the slapping bass at the start of Seinfeld. I'd like to have that play when you first enter the game. And then I'll see if I can get some of those GIFs working. I thought it'd be really good to have visual things pop up for some of these questions as well. So hopefully by the time you look at this, by the time it goes live, I will have spent another hour and another 3.5 tokens on it today, and I'll get it working even better. As I say, the link will be in the show notes if you want to go and try this for yourself. But I think perhaps what it would be good to show you just quickly now is some of the other functionality that's behind this. So as I mentioned, the code is in here. All the files are built within here. You can go in and see all those. And that's what a software developer would normally be doing. And then they would have to go and host that somewhere and set all that up. This does all that for you. So it does the hosting. You just hit publish and you get a link that it's then live. As I say, for this one, there was a basic database behind it, which is collecting the name, email, and the scores for the leaderboard. So to do that, I had to do an integration. They have a product called Supabase, which is this link here. And again, that was free to set up, and I set up the database within there, and I've now got a table behind this where I'm storing all that user information. You can see here, I've got one table for users, one for scores, and one for feedback. And that's all integrated and that's all working. To get that working, again, I was using ChatGPT to talk me through the process, and it gave me step-by-step instructions. So that's the way to use these tools in partnership. You're using Lovable to do a lot of the work, but you're using ChatGPT like your trusted partner to talk you through it step by step. And that's the workflow I use, and it's a really effective workflow. So if you're wanting to try any of these products, but the one I recommend is Lovable, definitely do it that way. Get the two windows going in unison, and you'll get a much better result. So I'm going to stop sharing there. You get the idea of the product and what I was able to build. Again, the link will be in the show notes if you want to go and try that. If you're a Seinfeld fan, please go and have a play with it, and I'd love to get your feedback. If you've got any tweaks you want to make to it, just let me know, and I can log in and make those on the fly. That's the magic of these new tools and AI. It really feels like having a superpower. And for those of us who aren't coders, it just opens up a whole new world of creativity. You can do something fun like this, or you can do a really functional business function, but it gives you the ability to be more creative and to actually start developing software, developing products, developing apps in a way that was previously not possible. So it's a great example of how AI is opening up possibilities, particularly for entrepreneurs, business owners, and small businesses who couldn't afford development teams or development agencies in the past. You can now get in there and start doing it yourself. So I encourage you to have a go. If you haven't yet played around with vibe coding, it's very easy. Don't be shy. Jump in, roll your sleeves up, and see what you can create. I'd love to see what you guys are creating as well. I hope you found that episode helpful. I hope that gives you a good overview and a good introduction to vibe coding so that you know where to get started and what tools to use. If you are finding this content helpful, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and put some comments below. Give me any feedback or ask any questions. I'd love to hear what you guys are getting out of this podcast. It is a journey. We're all learning as we go, and the tools are developing quickly. So don't wait any longer. Just get in there and start playing around with it. Until next week, good luck on your journey to learn more about AI. I'm Scott Davison, and this is My Way or the AI Way.